everyone, welcome to our latest edition of the Spin Out podcast. Today's episode, we welcome Laura Ashmole, a recognised community builder and diversity and inclusion advocate within Australia's innovation and startup ecosystem. She has led and built several successful service businesses from the ground up, including her own, and has a deep understanding of what drives sustainable commercial success. Her impactful tenure supporting emerging tech companies as head of growth at River City Labs included mentoring entrepreneurs, including myself, on sales and growth strategy, whilst connecting them to a national network of mentors, talent and investors. Currently, Laura serves as a mentor in residence for Perspective X and the Queensland Venture Partner for East End Ventures. Alongside her commercial work and driven by her journey raising her profoundly autistic son, Laura founded Built for Our Kids to revolutionise how society supports children with complex needs. By connecting families who have lived experience with leading innovators and entrepreneurs, she champions parent-led innovation to co-design life-changing, accessible solutions. Laura is also the author of I See You Mama, a raw and honest poetry collection dedicated to mothers of children with higher support needs. Through her advocacy, writing and leadership, Laura leverages her startup expertise to ensure that marginalised families are seen, supported and empowered to shape the world around them. Welcome to the Spin Out podcast, Laura. I'm so excited today to have my very good friend Laura here on the podcast, in the pod with me. Hi, Laura. Welcome.
Thank you. And we did pop
some champagne. I think this is the first time we've actually popped champagne in the pod, but we thought, why not? So cheers. Thanks for coming to visit.
I'm loving this. This is very exciting. And yeah, I can't wait to have a chat.
So let's tell everyone how we know each other, because I met you 2-3 years ago, the end of 2024, I think.
Yep.
I just did a little on-stage thing.
Just a little on-stage thing.
So there's a big event in Brisbane that was happening the last few years called Something Tech, which is where all the tech innovation businesses come together, Queensland businesses, but also all over Australia and globally as well, and we'd come together and talk all things tech and innovation for a few days. And there was a big competition as part of that called River Rivals. So it's the best of the best tech entrepreneurs, and it's a very competitive process. We get a huge amount of applicants. And you were, I think there was 8 or 10 of you that pitched on the night. Yeah.
And you won.
And I won. I went on stage and pitched Laundry Lady, and at that stage we were just starting to raise investment. We were trying to raise our profile in the Brisbane community, and particularly in the tech community, about who we are, and that, you know, we're not just a laundry business, but we're this global technology business. And so I got recommended to apply and went on stage and went through the program and perfected my pitch and won.
So. You did. And then our love affair began.
And then you were this amazing cheerleader through that whole process, and then we just became friends.
We did. And I remember I got asked to present the Entrepreneur of the Year award for the Women in Digital events, which was probably about a year after.
It was about a year after, yes.
And we'd obviously gotten to know each other. And I remember I wasn't allowed to know who the winner was until
Rightfully so, because you would have told
everyone. Of course. So I wasn't allowed to know who the winner was. And I literally got given the award as I walked on stage, and I saw your name, and I was just so excited.
I could tell about 10 seconds before you said my name
you'd won.
that it was going to be me by your reaction.
I looked, I knew what table you were. I think I was looked over
you were like,
into your eyes.
I'm so excited that it's this person. Yeah, that was pretty special to be able to get that award from you on stage, and then party and celebrate afterwards.
Which we also have done a lot of
We have. So, and then one of the really cool things that I won out of that River Rivals was a membership with the River City Labs, which is where you were working. And so we got to kind of drill a bit more into my business and get your support about just how to grow the business and connect to the right people and all of those kinds of things, because that's really what you're passionate about is being a connector.
Absolutely. And River City Labs and the ACS Labs kind of virtual platform, it really was, that's what it was all about. And my role as head of growth was to do that, right? So to make sure that the founders had access to all of the expertise that they needed, the mentorship that they needed, the investor network, the partnership network. You know, if you needed a lawyer, if you needed an accountant, if you needed somebody with marketing expertise to help you, and that's kind of what that community was. And I was very proud to be part of that for 3.5 years.
And you know, I was just on another podcast and they were asking me, what do you wish you knew at the beginning? And I get asked this question a lot. And I always say, I wish I knew about accelerator programs and being part of, you know, ecosystems like that and community, because I think if I'd have been a part of that, you know, 14 years ago when I first started Laundry Lady, the business growth would have been really, and the journey would have been completely different, because I would have had that access to go, right, well, this is the support you need and this is how you do this. And, you know, I highly recommend that to anyone who's just starting a business or growing a business to go and do something like that. And
do you know what it reminds me of? Like, I always used to say, we would help you get further faster or fail faster. And it's kind of like the same as if you are learning a language, right? So if you're an entrepreneur and you're new to this and you kind of like, what do I do next? If you're learning a language and all you have is an app, right, and a little bit of time to do it every day, like, you'll get there, but it might take you a while. But if you go and immerse yourself in the country, if you go and live with people, if you have a language teacher, if you have all of the resources around you, you're going to get there faster. And that is kind of what that community was. And yes, there will be more of them to come, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think, you know, connecting into that is just so important. And even now, like, as the business has grown and we're at a different phase, like, it's, again, just connecting into the right groups for the stage of your business.
And people that are going to advocate for you and think of you in a room that you might not be in. Right.
I mean, you've been one of my biggest cheerleaders, I have to say. And, you know, I'll go into rooms sometimes and people will be like, oh, Laura's told me all about you. And, you know, it does really help when you're trying to, you know, grow and do different things in your journey to have cheerleaders behind you like that, or even people you can just call and go, I'm having a really hard day. Can you help me through this part? So, yeah, I've always found so much value in being part of those kinds of groups and things like that. But yeah, and so we've become very good friends, and something that we love to chat about is just, you know, what the journey of Laundry Lady is and what we're able to offer to our laundry partners in terms of having this really flexible business that they can do from home, and what that really means to them, right? Because a lot of them, you know, a lot of our partners are dealing with, you know, they're just parents that they need to get their kids to school and home and all of those kinds of things, or maybe they're dealing with harder issues like, you know, kids that might have special needs where they've got to get them to lots of different appointments and, you know, have time off and to do all of those things, or maybe they're looking after elderly parents, or, you know, there's lots of different reasons why our laundry partners come and join us. And, you know, and I think this is something that's very close to your heart. So tell us about that.
Yes. So, you know, I always talk about my roles and the different hats that I wear, and I do a million different things, but my most important role is mum to Oscar. Oscar is 6. He is non-speaking, so he's not non-verbal in that he makes lots of noises, but he has no words. He is 6. He is still in nappies. He has lots of different challenges. He's autistic, and he also has ADHD, which has been a more recent diagnosis and global development delay. So he's intellectually disabled, has lots of sensory challenges in terms of, you know, clothes he wears, bright lights, big sounds. It just complicates things. And for anybody who has a child with these extra needs, nothing is simple, right? Nothing is simple. Going to school isn't simple. Going to the supermarket isn't simple. Getting dressed in the morning, no, none of it is simple. And, you know, in so many ways, he is a typical 6-year-old boy, right? He's running around, lots of energy. He wants to climb. He wants to, he eats like a machine, and eats you out of house and home. Very happy, but he has many more challenges than his peers. And as a result, as a mum, I have many more challenges than my peers of mums. And I think the biggest difference is, and kind of what drives me to what I'm doing next, and obviously we'll talk a little bit more about that, but one of the biggest things I think that differentiates the parents that are able to go and work and have some choice and options versus the parents that don't. A lot of the time, you don't know when they're going to need you, right? So it's very hard to typically plan the future. So, for example, if Oscar was neurotypical, I would be sat there going, okay, so in a few years he's going to go to this school, or he's going to, so I can think about that. Maybe I'll do part-time until can start doing vacation care, or he can do after-school care, and he's a bit older and he's out of prep. And then maybe, he'll go on to university, and then maybe that's when I will do my MBA or whatever, all of these things that people can plan for with their career. I don't know what's happening next week with Oscar. I don't know what's happening next year. I don't know whether you
don't know what's happening at 3 o'clock today.
I don't know what's happening at 3 a.m. this morning. I've been up since. you just don't know what's going to go on, and you're constantly waiting for the phone to ring. That kind of stress on somebody trying to make work in their lives. I think to have an option like Laundry Lady, to have something that is completely your own, that you can run around the weird times of the day that you might be up with them and things like that. It's amazing. And I think what you're doing is incredible. And there's no wonder that there will be a lot of people with children with complex needs in being Laundry Lady and lads, for sure.
Yeah, and I think, I remember it's been a long time since I was working in a corporate career for someone else, but when I did, it was like, just trying to get time off to have an appointment, even for yourself, that you knew weeks ahead of time that you had to go to. You'd have to put in all of these requests. You'd have to sell your soul to your manager, and and I had some managers that were very toxic early in my career who would just make life hard for no reason at all.
But not even that, right? Even in a scenario where, let's say, you didn't need a doctor's appointment, you didn't need a dental appointment, you didn't need any appointment, right, for a year. Let's just say, right, in a 12-month period in a job, and you had a nice manager, right, who maybe gave you flex and was lovely. Even that, you have 4 weeks annual leave a year, right? Let's say you are in a relationship with somebody and the other parent has 4 weeks a year. The school holidays are like 12 or 13 weeks a year. So already the maths doesn't even work.
Yeah.
That's not taken into consideration. Any sickness, anything, and then time for yourself, I remember looking at my year ahead at the start of the year and kind of thinking about, a few things. I was supposed to go away and, a wedding and things like that. I'm looking at the calendar and I'm thinking, hang on a minute. If I've used up all my leave before we even get to the next, big school holidays at the end of the year, and I've had nothing for myself in there. These are parents
and
that are
juggling the stress of a child that has extra needs and working and all of those things. It's a lot on your plate to try and so it's really good that you say that you're trying to carve out time for yourself as well, because I feel like a lot of parents in general don't do that, right? But then also if you're trying to juggle a lot of things, I think that's probably something that people don't do well. I certainly don't do it very well myself.
But then what you will do is you'll snap at your kids.
Yes.
And you'll look up and you'll realise that, you're getting sick or something will happen and, you miss that event or something because you were working or whatever. And it happens slowly, but suddenly you blink and your life, you don't have the relationships, or you realise that, you've been a bit of an arsehole to your kids, or you've not had the patience that they need. Oscar needs lots of patience, which is not my natural talent at all. And so you have to, for me to be the best parent he needs, for me to be the parent he needs, period, without being the best, just actually handle everything that gets thrown at me in an average 24 hours. If I am not regulated, if I am not, I've not filled my cup enough that can get really bad really quickly. And, you know, the amount of parents that suffer from burnout, like severe burnout anyway, add into the mix complex needs.
Yeah.
It's a whole other level, you know.
And so what do you do then to fill your cup and to get that time?
So I try and I get really proactive with it now, because I started to notice that you're very reactive, right? You're day to day, you're doing what you need to do, and it's very hard to plan anything. And anyone who is listening that might have a child with complex needs, particularly autism, where it depends what mood they're in, right? It depends what's going on, how regulated they are. So one day they could be fine going to the park for that birthday party for 20 minutes. They could be involved. The next day, driving the wrong way to the birthday party could be something that triggers them and they're having a meltdown and you never even get out the car. So I think that reactive nature of day to day, let's just get through today, you don't proactively prioritize anything. So I think finding time where maybe on like a Sunday evening, you can look ahead of the week, or at the end of the month, and you can look ahead of the next month, and you can go, what is one thing I can do? Could I book a massage in 3 weeks' time, right? Put it in my calendar and pretend it's a meeting with a CEO. Like pretend it's like a meeting with Barack Obama. Like you wouldn't cancel it, you're going. Can I do something where maybe I, instead of cleaning the house when they go to bed, because it might be a mess, I'm actually going to get a bath and I'm going to put some Epsom salts in that bath. And I might have a nice...
Just let my house be messy.
I'm going to be okay with that.
Matter.
Yes. And I'm going to give myself that grace, right? I'm going to give myself that.
I think these are good lessons for every parent, not just parents who are dealing with extra needs. It's like, you know, and I say this often to people when they say, how do you balance business and your kids? I'm like, you got to let things go.
Exactly.
And if you walk into my house today, it does not look very pretty. No. On Sunday, it'll look really different.
No, exactly.
But in the midst of the week, it's at its worst. And you know what? That's okay, because it'll get there again. But, you know, you've got to just let things go.
Let things go. Outsource what you can. Stop.
We've probably spent far too much on Uber Eats, but, you know, that gets us through the week sometimes.
It will get you through the week sometimes. And also, I think not holding yourself to this perfect role. So I think that's the other thing as well, you know, especially mothers, we kind of have this, especially when we look at the generations before, you know, and we go, okay, the food was always cooked and this was always done and everything was always clean and we always had this but okay, great, but they weren't working full time like we were. Or, okay, great, but they also weren't doing responsible for half the income or more than half the income, like a lot of us are. And so...
I definitely had all of those, you know, visions in mind when I first became a parent, that I was going to be this Susie homemaker.
Soccer mum.
Because my mum was so good at it, you know, and she would make all of the, you know, there was always homemade food and, you know, she was always there. And my parents had a business, but, you know, she was at home most of the time with me. And, you know, my mum said to me the other day, oh, you're not very good at the domestic stuff. I'm like, well, I would be if I had time. But
you know what I am good at? I'm really good at this business stuff over here.
And that's why I created a business to help people in their domestic things. Like, let's outsource that.
Yes, exactly.
And it doesn't mean you're not good at it. Like, I was good at laundry when I was, you know, the laundry lady. But now I'm so busy, I just don't have the time. And, you know, I think I just read this book. I read Melinda Gates' book, you know, Lift, and she talks about being good enough. Like, let's just believe we're, you know, it's good enough. Yeah. And I think that's a really important message. It's like we put too much pressure on ourselves to be...
Women do,
yes,
for sure.
Absolutely. To be this perfect parent or perfect business or perfect whatever. It's like, just be good enough, and that's okay. Yeah. That's actually okay.
And some days you'll be amazing, and then you'll be rubbish at the other thing. It can't all be perfect at the same time. And you know what? If it was, like, I don't like the word balance.
No, exactly.
I hate the word balance because when I think of it, I get stressed. I think of scales and I think of constantly
just
trying
literally had
to,
that in my head. I was like, you can never do that. Never.
So I just call it harmony.
Yeah.
Harmony in the chaos. Like, you've got to be able to let that tornado spin let it spin, get in the eye of the storm sometimes and decide, be calm, decide what you're going to take out of it, and then let it go again. And if you can get really good at that, everything becomes easier. It's a mental game, I think, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And so take us back to, how did you first know that Oscar was different? Like,
Yes.
When did you realise that?
So Oscar was diagnosed, I need to be better with my timelines. I think he was about 2.5, but I think we'd known 2.5, I think. We'd known for probably 6 months or so before. He wasn't meeting his milestones, right? So, and what was interesting is my friend and I had our sons a week apart. They were both called Oscar. She was living in Melbourne at the time, and it was COVID, so she moved up to Queensland. So we both were set on the name Oscar, but she was like, it's fine. Like, one of us are in Victoria, the other one's in Queensland. Next thing, we're living down the road from each other with our 2 Oscars. So the Oscars were just so awesome. And because we were so cut off from the world in 2020 and our parents were all in the UK, and of course they wanted to be there but couldn't with the borders closed for COVID. So we kind of became each other's families and supported each other. And the Oscars, it would be texts, he just did this, or he's got a tooth, and then the other one would get one. So they were just like the whole time. And then suddenly the other Oscar started doing different things, right? And my Oscar wasn't doing them. And it was a bit like, oh, well, he always gets there. That's what happens. And I remember it was the daycare that said to us, I'm a bit worried that he's deaf. Have you had his ears checked? He's not responding to his name. And when I tell the story, a lot of people go, oh, that was exactly what happened with us, right? Exactly what happened with us. So he stopped responding to his name. Eye contact wasn't very good. He'd never pointed at anything before. And again, these little milestones that they kind of should be hitting around the 18-month, 2 years, but it's very, 6-month period is kind of, he wasn't so different that we were worried about it. It was just this deaf thing came up. And had you been around any neurodiverse children before that? So you had no idea. I'm not a very maternally person, right? Like, I am. That's probably the wrong thing to say, but I'm definitely not a domesticated mum, right? I never even thought I'd have kids. Like, I'm not round a load of kids. And my sister's the one, she's a early years teacher. And I remember asking her a few things, and she was telling me, a few things about developmentally, but I wasn't around a load of kids. I didn't know what good looked like and what bad looked like or whatever. So, he wasn't deaf, and then it kind of got, you start reading, and then you kind of start asking questions, and then he got assessed, and yes, he was autistic. So there's 3 levels that they give you when they give you a diagnosis, level 1 to level 3. And level 3 is, I guess, it's a high support needs. It's based on what needs they're going to need, right? So it doesn't mean anything. And the diagnosis, it's just a label. It's just a name. Don't even worry about it. It can be the most heartbreaking. It is the most heartbreaking thing, because you go through a grief process, right? Suddenly you're like, hang on a minute. Everything I thought the next few years were going to look like, the rest of my life was going to look like, is now gone. And now I have no idea. It's not like it's being replaced with anything. I actually don't know what it looks like. He could talk. He might not talk. He could potentially learn to communicate in this way. He might never. He could be out of nappies. He might never. Will he live in any independence? I don't know. So you're suddenly getting hit with all of that and this huge, uncertainty. And you're looking at your 3-year-old like, but you're just you, right? And it's a really hard thing mentally to come to terms with.
And what's the difference between autistic and ADHD? They
so
all
different.
Get grouped together.
They do get grouped together. So going back to the levels of autism, level 3 is the highest support needs. That's where they probably, if you Google that, right, I'm telling you, anyone who get a diagnosis, don't start Googling it. We'll send you crazy. And I actually talk about it in the book about the diagnosis because it is a really big turning point in anyone's life. But yeah, the autism, the level 1 to 3, level 1 is kind of, you might have some challenges, but you're pretty much okay. You will live in the world, but there will be things that you might need some support with. Level 2 is, you might have challenges with a bit more challenges with communication and things like that. And level 3 is kind of where it's profound, and that's where Oscar is. ADHD is a completely different diagnosis. They're all, and there's many different, I'm not a doctor and I'm not a psychologist, but there is many different variances in the way people's brains work. That's what neurodiversity is, right? And these labels, I guess, are ways to group certain symptoms or behaviors or whatever it might be. I'm very much of the belief, like the word disorder annoys me because I'm like, it's not a disorder. His challenges are because the world wasn't built for him, right? We're all used to being able to talk via words. Matter of fact, the communication between any two people, the words alone are only about 8%. It's body language, it's tone, it's all of that stuff, right? And the way in which the world works, similar to what you'll have experienced as a woman in the business world, a couple of things we touched on earlier, the business world was made by men, for men. It's only now that we're coming in and we're going, hang on, and only now that maybe some alterations are taking place. The world was not made for these neurodiverse people, okay? So ADHD people will struggle in a very different way. Autistic people will struggle in a very different way. Their brains just think differently. So this is where I go, what if we, in the same way we can accommodate, the variances that we all have as human beings when it comes to gender, race, talent, all of these, height, like whatever you want to talk about, why can't we do that for neurodivergence? And this is kind of where I wanted to make some changes into how the world operated to support and accommodate and be more inclusive for people like Oscar and others. And that's where Built for Our Kids was born.
So tell us about it. Tell us about the book and Built for Kids.
Yes, okay. So I'll tell you about Built for Our Kids first. Actually, I'll tell you about the book. We'll cut that bit out. Let me tell you about the book first.
Okay. The book, it's called I See You, Mama. It's nice and thin, so for us busy mamas who don't have much time to read, you can read this nice and quick.
You can read a poem,
right?
A poem a day.
And so what is it designed to do?
Okay, so I'll tell you where it came from. It was never supposed to be a book. So for as long as I can remember, I've always been somebody who... I'll make up little rhymes and little poems. I didn't even call them poems, I call them rhymes. So something will happen, Oscar has a meltdown, I'll be in the car and I'll think of like a funny little tagline or something to kind of describe what just happened, right? My brain
Is this
just
what
does
keeps you calm? Is this how you...
Maybe, maybe. But creative outlets, even, recently I was made redundant. The place that I work for was closed suddenly. And I wrote this little poem for the team that kind of described each of them and their role in the team, and it all rhymed, and I sent it to them. And this is just what I do under stress. When my father died, and I'm the oldest child, I had to talk at his funeral, and I'm someone who could talk all day and absolutely fine, script or no script, happy to chat in front of people. But in that situation, I was blank. I didn't know what I was going to say, and I ended up writing a poem, and I just said that and it sat down, which kind of summed up how I was feeling. It just comes out my brain. So over the school holidays last year, it was a really hard few weeks. Oscar was all over the place. My mum was here. She had some severe challenges, had to go back to the UK. I was exhausted. There's a lot going on personally at home. And I just found myself writing these things, these little rhymes. And about... probably a few weeks in, I had that many of them that I started grouping them and they made poems that made sense with titles. And when probably a few weeks later, I was matched to a founder, a beautiful lady who I knew was autistic. She never told me she was, but I knew she was. And so I was matched to her anyway, just for what support she needed. But we kind of really hit it off and we had a really good friendship. And I think I understood her and she knew I understood her. And she shared with me about her son being autistic as well. And I remember it made me think of one of the poems I'd written. And I emailed it to her. I just said, thinking of you, like, you're not alone, you're understood, and I get it. And when I saw her next, she printed it and she put it on her desk. And she said, I love it. She said, I love it so much. And I just thought, I've got a whole load of these. So I sent her another one. And then I'm like, what if I made a little book? Now, it's coming up to by this time, it's like April, it's coming up to my birthday. And I, every year on my birthday, I do a New Year's resolution. And for my new year, my next trip around the sun. And I thought, right, I want to do something. I want to give back to this community. I feel like I've been in my own world trying to like handle this myself, but there's other mums out there. And actually I got so much joy out of talking to this beautiful mentee of mine. And Oscar, was in this school now, and I knew there was other mums in there, but no one's got the time. I'm not one of those people who's going to go and talk to everyone at the school. I'm in and I'm out. And I thought, right, I'm gonna put something together. It doesn't really matter what it looks like. I didn't think it was going to look nice like this. I just thought it was going to be this little thing, and I'll print 100, and I'll just give them to people. I'll drop them off in paediatrician office. I'll drop them off in the therapy centres. I'll give them to the school for the mums, and it'll be my good project. I was like, right, I'm going to do that. And then I thought, hang on, what if I print 100 copies and one of those mums wants it, but wants to give it to another mum and they can't pass it on? So I thought, okay, well, what if I just have a little website where they can print them? Like you can go on and just print them, get them posted to you. And then I thought...
and then your entrepreneur
and then I'm like, hang on. So essentially... at the time, I was working for the labs, as you know, and I was coming across a lot of people who were doing work in this space. So, trying to solve problems, the complex problem space that surrounds special needs and families and all of the things that we go through. And they would come to me because they would, want to bounce ideas. Someone would send them to me, or someone would send someone who was a mom of an autistic person who was trying to find the time and time manage to build their business. And so they would come to me. And I thought, okay, well, what if I had these books? These 100 people get one. They want to pass one on. They can buy them with whatever it is, the profit.
We're live again. So we just had to interrupt our podcast for a quick school call. I'm sure many of our listeners can sympathise with the good old call from school. I always am like, do I answer this or not? Is this going to go well or not go well?
Can I just say, I just witnessed some incredible risk assessment there. It was like an emotional, like real, like, are you okay, darling? Like, mum. Good. And then it's like, where did it hit you in the head?
Is there blood? Yes. Is usually what's going through my head.
Are you feeling like you have a concussion, or are you all right, mate?
Do I need to actually come immediately, or is this something I can delay for an hour? I've had many calls like this, and, they often happen during fun times like recording a podcast or like your very first board meeting. That one was really fun when you have your board of directors there who are also investors in the company for the first time, and you have to leave half an hour in and leave them to themselves to go and get your child because he's hit his, I can't even remember, hit his head or something with a football. And, my child is very out there and energetic, and so he hurts himself like every day, at least once. And so it's always... is this actually real? Does this really need, addressing or not immediately? Because I think school also are different to how they used to be. Like, they will call you over anything, right?
They will. And they inform you over everything, like the apps. Like, it's just... the app that I have for Oscar School and all of the emails, it's like a full-time job. It is a full-time job
trying to
reading them and keeping up with what's going on. And then you're that parent who, like, I remember, the day before, like, World Book Day, because obviously with Oscar, he can't talk, so he's not going to remind me and tell me what's going on. Right? I've got to read these things. Remember, it's like World Book Day or something. And this was at Kindy. And it was like the morning of, it was like, reminder, we're all dressed up today. And I'm thinking, oh, for God's sake. So I literally put him in a dinosaur T-shirt. And I said, he's Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park.
I mean, they do these things to torture parents, I swear. Book club is just about torturing parents.
Book day, this other day, let's dress up. Oscar dressed up as, it was a P. They were doing letters. They learn like different letters. And they have weeks of the school where it'll be a phrase or a letter. So... all the kids will talk about it, and it's kind of to reinforce their lessons. Like, special schools are really interested in how they work and how they operate. It's very cool. But it was the letter P. So they had to dress up in everything, the letter P, and they gave us like a list. Like, could be a Pikachu or a Pokemon or a Paw Patrol or whatever the hell they're called. And I was just like, oh, for God's sake. So I thought, oh, he had penguin pajamas. So I put him in his penguin pajamas. I'm like, 2 P penguin pajamas, and he went off, and there he was.
Like we said before, good enough.
It was good enough.
It's good enough.
It was a double entendre.
I've definitely said mine in some crazy things because I've forgotten or not read the notices usually. But so coming back to the book, so it's this book of beautiful rhymes to just help you get through.
It is, and really, it might be that you read it and you find one that really resonates. It's real, it's raw, it's a bit funny. The thing is, though, it's supposed to give you some hope. It's supposed to let you know that you're not alone, and you're going to read it and go, yeah, I get that, right? And some of it is heart-wrenching, and some of it is joyful as anything. There's a poem in there called "Magical Moments," and I think that is one of the things we talk about, the challenges, and we talk about how hard it is. But I'm telling you, the level of just joy, happiness, excitement that you feel when your child has done the tiniest thing that most other parents would take for granted, the way that makes you feel, it's incredible. And so it's a whole different level of feelings that you have when they do these things, when they come home with a painting, or they look at you and smile, or they hold the pen for the first time and things like that. It's like you are just celebrating these, what are tiny things in every other household. They are like huge moments. But yeah, the book it's there. It's the idea is you keep it, you pass it on, whatever you want to do. But for the parents that want to, I guess, be more involved in kind of their children's future and how we kind of build a different world for the kids, this is where at the back you can actually go through the QR code and get yourself over to the Built for Our Kids community.
And so tell us about Built for Kids
Built
community.
For Our
so
Kids, yes.
This has come from the book, and then going, there's a need for this. And because you're a connector, you obviously going to create a community. Why not? So tell us about it.
It's a community. It is, but in a very different sense of the word. So Built for Our Kids, I guess it exists to bring to life new technology that is going to change the way in which children with complex needs and their families interact with the world and how the world interacts with them. Okay, we talked about it being not built for us, and this is us building it for us. So it's a parent-led innovation network. That's what I'm building, and it's a network of parents who want to know more and understand more around the innovation that is happening, right? So think of the tech ecosystem and the innovation ecosystem we talked about before and everything that's going on in there. And then you think about this kind of community of autistic parents. They could not be further apart, right? They have nothing in common except for me. And the fact that if you get a badass autism mom or dad, or a badass, child with complex needs parent and a badass founder, they have a lot more in common than you realize. So much grit, so much problem solving. They're creative in how they operate. They're resilient. They keep going. So they have more in common than they realize. And what is important is that these two worlds do merge in some way and they do connect. So my goal is to give founders, give technologists and entrepreneurs the opportunity to connect with those with lived experience, to really provide insight, help co-design, validate and test new technology products and solutions. And we're really hoping that we are going to bring to life a suite or a whole different world of tech solutions that get embedded into society. And my goal is I would love for people, the same way you and I might go now, God, you remember before the internet? What did we do before the internet? What did we do before Teams and Zoom and all of this kind of stuff, right? And kind of virtual meetings. Virtual meetings weren't even a thing, right? They may have been here and there, but not as embedded into society as they 5 years ago, 6 years ago is when all that changed. That's the kind of change in timeframes I'm needing, right, with Oscar. Because my biggest fear is kind of the opposite to yours, Susan. Like, if you think about your kids and your future, and I was to say, what's your biggest fear when it comes to your kids? What's your biggest fear? And I asked you that a few times. We'd end up getting to that you never want to outlive your children, right? That is ultimately every parent's biggest fear, nightmare. Mine is, I have to. Because right now, if something happens to me, he has not got the level of support and the care and anything. Like, where would he be? Where would he go? What situation would he be in? It's not to the standard that I would allow for him. So it needs to move quick. And we have seen, systematic change and movement, definitely. You can't say that we haven't, but it's slow and it's not good enough. And I think that the biggest needle mover, the fastest needle mover is tech, right? It is. So if we can create the internet, the ChatGPT, the Zoom, the Teams of that has had that impact on the world in this space, I think it's going to just change everything for these families and for these children.
Yeah, amazing. I know, like on the other side of it, in terms of our laundry service, like the things we've built in our platform so that we can support customers who are in the NDIS, for example, which is a huge, as you know, is a hugely complex system to navigate. And
that's my other full-time job.
Yeah, I think it's a full-time and a half job, right? It's like so intensely administrative burden, and the way that it's has been rolled out is insanity. And for us as a business to help customers who are struggling with their laundry because they're trying to look after their kids, it's we're really proud to be able to provide this service for them. But it's been so much work for us to try and build our technology solutions to integrate with that environment. And so, I think that's such a burden for this sector in terms of how do you do all of these things without being held back by the government, red tape around everything, and, and move forward.
It's so slow. It's so slow. And this is it. Time isn't on our side, right? Time isn't on our side. Add to the fact that, if you are a carer, if you are somebody that is under chronic stress at all times, very hard to get respite because, you're a parent, you just don't. You're actually going to live less time, right?
Yeah.
Than others. Like that's a pretty much a given. Everything. Yeah. And, in Oscar's case, I don't know. He could start talking in a few years. I've met some incredible people. I've met someone who worked for Google, chief innovation evangelist for Google. Never spoke till he was 7. Profoundly autistic, incredible guy. There's lots of people who it comes out later on. That might not be an issue for us. He could live an independent life, but I also have to go with the statistics. Right, the statistics that tell me that right now he won't. Also, if I look at, I talked about the 2 Oscars before, right? 2 mums, we had the same job. She was the Victoria State Manager, I was the Queensland State Manager, both from the UK, both, with partners, etc. They had the same start in life, right? But right now, as it stands, my child is 9 times more likely to die from suicide than his, because that's a stat, right, in this community, because of isolation, because they're cut off from the world, because they can't communicate, because they're misunderstood, because they can't be employed, they can't contribute to society, because they're just kind of left at the sidelines. And I think the thing about this is we're talking about our kids, right, and we're talking about us as parents, but actually it's such a bigger problem. Because I talk about the diagnosis and the autistic child as being like the pebble that gets thrown into the body of water. That's just the start. The ripple effect is things like the parents can't work. One of them ends up quitting their job, typically the woman, okay? So suddenly half the household income is gone. Suddenly you've got another female leaving the workforce, okay? So the goals of the Australian economy in terms of, all of that inclusion and equity and everything else and that gender parity impacted, right? You then go, that child is now in a school system where there is teachers that are now under pressure to work out how to support them. And then you know what? They end up getting kicked out of school. And on average, the autistic kids, you know, families are moving interstate. I've met people who are on their third, fourth, fifth school, the kid's 10, right? And I don't just mean in the same area. I mean, they've traveled to, you know, away from their family, away from their entire friendship network to get a kid into a school because they hear that school 2 states away is good with autistic kids, right? So this is what's happening. So then you're losing mental health, like isolation, you know, friends. You stop getting invited to things because you say no that many times, right? You and I've had this. How many times have we been like, we're going to go for a drink, we're going to do this, and 2 hours before, I'm so sorry, Oscar, this has happened. And you stop getting invited to things. You have to work really hard on your friendship groups. And in the end, you just think, I'm not going to bother. It's too hard. Then if you've got other children, right, you've then got the other children who may be neurotypical. Their worlds become small, okay, because they can't do things. The divorce, like there's just so many things that just start coming and these ripples that start happening. And it all impacts home, society, education system, the amount of people that are unemployed, the impact that is having, billions of dollars on the economy, mental health and all that, you know, what is happening there, the burnout. It's a huge ripple effect, right? Yeah. It's a huge ripple effect. And it's all because none of this was built for these children. And the only way we change is we start looking at the child and the needs of the parent, and we support them in a different way that exists right now. And to do that, we need innovation with new technology.
Yeah, I think, you know, when you have financial pressure in any situation, it is so difficult. But adding financial pressure to a situation like this could just be, you know, it could absolutely crush you. And, you know, I know a lot of our laundry partners have come to us for this very reason, right? Because they just can't be in a regular job anymore. No. They can't work regular hours. They can't, you know, be in an environment where they've got to ask for permission to have time off or, you know, and that's where I think the beauty of our model has really come into play, that we've been able to support them to be able to have that business.
You don't realise the problems you're solving. Yeah. That's what I mean. It's a really, it's the complexity of it. Yours is a solution that you probably didn't even realise, right? Yes. And it's actually turned into that. Yeah,
it wasn't what I was thinking when I started the business. I was just thinking juggling life as a busy mum and, you know, and then other things come out of it. And, you know, and it's really special when we do hear the stories from our laundry partners, because we don't always hear them, but when we do hear them and they tell, you know, it's always something like, you've changed my life. And, you know, that's so special to hear that, to know that this actually has made a difference in their world. And it is that ripple effect, because it's not just giving them an income, but it's then helping them with so many other aspects of their life to be able to manage, you know, these.
And now they can take their kids to the therapy appointments, which means that their kids are going to get better outcomes at school, which means they're going to get better
home with them.
Exactly. And or maybe they could have some respite time, right? To actually have some time back for themselves, because they now have that flexibility. You know, I remember I had an amazing boss in my last role, but there would be some times where Oscar would wake up at 2 a.m., right? And he would just be awake for the day. So I know by the time I got him off to school and I was starting work, I was going to need a sleep, right? I was already like 9 hours into my day. Like, I needed to sleep. And so I would literally get on my laptop. I'd start writing my emails while he's sitting there playing, because that's the other thing. You can't go back asleep. You can't just put TV on for them. Like, God knows what. I've fallen asleep and closed my eyes for 10 minutes on the sofa once and woke up to the entire contents of my pantry in the toilet.
Well, you did just show me your phone. What it looks like after it had a little bath.
It did. It had a bath, Oscar. And so, yeah, I used to do that, right? I used to do 2 a.m. and I would get all my emails ready. I basically work the first 2 hours of my day, and I'd schedule them all to go out at a reasonable time. And then I would text my boss and I would say, I'm going to sleep for 3 hours and I'll be online for the first meeting at 11, but it looks like I'm working. Now, that was an incredible relationship that I have with my boss, and a lot of trust, right? And I earned the ability to do that over
It's really hard to find
it's so hard
who will do that.
Exactly. But that kind of, where else are you going to get a job where you can do that? well, what if you could do your laundry at that time?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then go to bed.
Lady.
And then go to bed. Seriously.
Yeah, no, exactly. And yeah, it's like what it can do for those people is really amazing.
It's very important.
So tell us, how do we get involved in Built for Our Kids?
Yes. Okay. So we've actually got 2 books. I bought 2 books. I printed 100 copies of these when I made them, and I've given them out to people who I love and care about, and also people who I know have know other people who might need this. I am going to be getting some more printed. I've had a lot of support and people wanting to pay for bundles of these books as well, which is amazing. But for those that would like to go to the Built for Our Kids website and sign up for the community, it's a free community. The first newsletter is going to come out tomorrow. I say that with a caveat. Because
by the time this airs, it will be out.
By the time it is, the newsletter will be out. But the first 2 people that sign up, we're going to give you a little code or something so that you can tell us that you have heard about it through the podcast. You will receive one of these books. And the newsletter will kind of keep you informed of what we're doing and how you might be able to get involved, and different opportunities as well.
Yeah, amazing. I think there's definitely many of our laundry partners who love to know all about what you're doing and get involved where they can. So thank you so much for sharing your story. I think there'll be people out there who really resonate with this. And like I've just been flipping through this book and there's, really like just things that I think will resonate with anyone. Like this one starts with the invisible load, another week, another therapy session. This is when the guilt kicks in, when you've asked about last week's strategies that you ran out of time to fit in. I won't keep reading, I'll let other people read, but, I think these things will resonate with a lot of people, a lot of parents.
It's real.
With all kinds of things.
It's
not
real.
Just the complexities of where you are. And yeah, I mean, I take my hat off to you to juggle a career as well as everything else that you have going through. And I never take it to heart when you cancel my plans because I know we'll just have a pot. We'll have a champagne in the pod. So we find our time to connect and to do these things. So thank you so much for coming in and chatting to us.
Oh,
and good luck with everything that you're building. And I see you, Mama. Please check it out, and we'll give everyone all the details for that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.